back again. It's Atlantic Discuss. Yes, your Friday, juicy, interesting topic all the time. A lot of you have always accused me that we talk too much about Nigeria. I know we've talked about other African countries, but my point remains that Nigeria is the largest concentration of Black people on the planet. I've always said it. So one out of every sub-Saharan African, one out of every four sub-Saharan African is a Nigerian. Statistically, we've seen also that one out of every six Black person in the world is a Black person, is a Nigerian. So people like Mandela, the great Madiba have said that if Nigeria gets it right, Africa, the Black world will get it right. So clearly Nigeria is acting behind schedule in almost every shape or form, politically, economically. We should be worried. The Black world is worried. The entire world is worried. There's a lot of instability in the land. Nigeria has 6 sub-regions. There's almost no sub-region in Nigeria now that you don't have some element of militancy, trouble, or insurgency, or crime rate. So, ship of state to a very large extent looks rudderless. We do not organize good elections. In the past, our elections were free, but never fair. Now they're not free, they're not fair. So we need to keep addressing these issues. And the only people we can always look up to are erudite scholars, people who are true to power. So today we are talking to Professor P. Utomi, who in his own wisdom has set up a new initiative, called the New Tribe. We need to know the essence of this, why he has done it. We've discussed it in the past, but it's going to be launched today, October 1st. And we need to find out why Prof is taking the bull by the horn, because according to most people I've spoken to, Nigeria doesn't have too much time left. This kind of trajectory we're going, it's very, very dangerous. So Professor Utomi, welcome to Atlanta Discussion.
Thank you so very much. I'm very, very pleased to be able to join you, and allow me to wish you a very, very happy birthday.
Thank you.
I think that those of you who fight for rights deserve to be acknowledged, and I acknowledge and celebrate you as you celebrate.
Thank you, sir. We are our mentor, so you are encouraged by what you have done in a period where there seemed to be nobody to actually look up to in the Nigerian troposphere. You are a beacon of hope. So, like I said, the importance and essence of the New Tribe, which is being launched today. So let's just go straight to the point. I know you're a very busy man. So what prompted your creating a forum for New Tribe in Nigeria? What led to it? Where did it come from?
Well, thank you. Nation building is about pragmatic and consistent problem solving. And to do that, repeating yesterday's mistakes is more than foolishness. There are many, many things that we have tried. Somebody on Twitter, X, said, another new thing. My goodness. What else? If you have tried this, it doesn't work, you have to try that. The other option is to give up. And that is not an option at all. So you look at what you have done before, examine why it has not worked, and look in the iteration for what you learn from experience may work, and try that. Now, in going through the many challenges of our trying to build a nation, we have seen repeatedly that one type of government after the other fails. I mean, in fact, what is tragic is that you can almost now predict that the government after is worse than the one before, consistently. Just look going back. If you want to be honest and fair to yourself, the Obasanjo government, who were complaining about the Obasanjo government, turns out to be perhaps the best government we have had in post-military era.
Unbelievable.
And then, of course, my view is that Yar'Adua would have been a great president. Unfortunately, he didn't live. So that becomes a factual counterpoint that we can debate forever. Part of my judgment is based on 2.5 hours I spent with him one Friday afternoon as he tried to persuade me to join him to build. And I was trying to show him the shortcomings in the system. Indeed, and in fact, the whole idea of being a learning people, a learning organization, if you're a business, is to get a return on experience. I was trying to point out to President Yaradua all the problems with experience that get in the way of our getting things right. And he listened very, very carefully for that long. And then says to me, see, this is the proof of the point that you should come and let's together try and make it happen. Because that's a long story. You've heard that story, I'm sure, before, and so on and so forth. But besides that blip, we went progressively from, I don't know what you call it, progressively or retrogressively, from the Obasanjo example to the Jonathan embarrassment. As far as I'm concerned, Jonathan's time was an embarrassment, but people will now look back with nostalgia to that time of embarrassment. Because following Jonathan, we had this tragedy, 8-year tragedy of Nigeria going back at least 30 years under General Buhari. And people were saying, whatever it is, nothing can be worse than this. We will hit rock bottom. And then suddenly, we woke up to people being told to tighten their belts while the government was profligately spending. And then you get this incredible fallacy of composition. They say, oh, things are hard because reform makes things hard. So you go through hardship and I think to myself, oh my goodness. Yes, reforms are supposed to be difficult, but if you are reforming in the wrong direction, how are you going to get to somewhere? It was Dietrich Bonhoeffer who said many years ago that if you get on a train going in the wrong direction, coming out to the corridor and starting to run in the opposite direction, you'll never get in there. You're inside the train, go in the right direction, and decide if you're running in the right direction. But the train is going in the wrong direction, you will never get to where you're supposed to get to. And this is what the logic is when people tell you, we need to suffer. And so, in fact, I took it to a level of putting its absurdity in context. When in an interview recently with Ruben Abati, I said to him, if pain and punishment is what makes reform happen, then let's collect all our big men, begin to flog them. Flog them. The more they feel pain, hopefully the better the economy. But that is not logical. The economy will get logical because we're beating ourselves up. So we've got to go through what is it that went wrong with the strategy of yesterday. And as you do it, you learn a few things. Two things I am certain I have learned about the problem in Nigeria. One is that values shape human progress. And Nigeria is in a collapse of culture. Values have gone so south, it is unbelievable. The Columbia University Professor Jared Diamond, who wrote the book Collapse, How Societies Have Failed Through Human History, shows you clearly that values, almost every society that has failed in history, human history, going back millennia, they failed because somehow values gave. The cultural crisis that leads to the failing of every civilization that we have known. Whether you are talking about the Roman civilization or Suleiman the Magnificent in the Ottoman days, it's always a crisis of values. And if you look at Nigeria, you will see a total collapse of culture. Where people don't have conscience anymore. People will come and there's an election, bold-faced, daylight robbery, and they smile and continue moving. When the culture gets to that, to save it is a lot of trouble. So you got to look at how do we save culture. And I again put it in context. One of the greatest thinkers of the modern era in America, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, was a U.S. senator from New York, but was before that a professor at Harvard, made this profound statement usually referred to as the two truths. it says the central conservative truth is that it is not politics, but culture that is responsible for the progress of a society. But the central liberal truth is that politics can save a culture, save it from itself. And that essentially when you look at Democrats, Republicans, the difference between them is a perception of how to save culture, how to manage culture. Democrats say you can engineer culture. So they come up with programs that will help culture save itself. Republicans say, look, the conservatives just follow family values, follow the founding fathers' views, and so on and so forth, and you will get a society that works. Well, culture matters, that's for sure. And so it seemed to me that if we don't do something about culture, the values in Nigeria, we can't make any progress. Second learning, for me, which is very clear, Nigeria's institutions are enormously weak. They are breaking. They have now been totally demolished by the political class. INEC is now a joke. I mean, most Nigerians consider it a joke. What is the consequence? Very few Nigerians will show up to vote if nothing dramatic is done at INEC. They have given up on the electoral process. And so when they give up on the electoral process, they give up on the legitimating attribute of elections for the social order. When the legitimating attribute is taken away, the only thing that can happen is that people, knowing that they cannot trust the state, cannot trust the judiciary to do right, will take the law into their hands. The necessary outcome or the unfortunate outcome will be anarchy, which was duly predicted by another American scholar and journalist, Robert Kaplan, in the book, The Coming Anarchy, which he analyzed very, very clearly the way West Africa was going, ethnic, religious, economic cleavages, and how those could lead to a descent into anarchy. So learning from all of this, I thought to myself and shared with many that I share experiences with the fact that perhaps the salvation can come by building a movement, a tribe of Nigerians who really believe that values are central to progress, believe that personal integrity is a starting point for a values revolution, believe that inclusion, regard for neighbor, is a very important part of the values revolution, believe that the work ethic matters, that is the work ethic that gets things going, boosts production, and leads to a better life for people. A belief in the fact that justice matters in sustaining anything, that there can be no real peace without justice. Those sets of values, invariably, when they are accepted as norm, put society on the path to progress. Those institutions that evolve from interested parties essentially saying, I would rather this way, the other one says I would rather that way, and eventually we reach a kind of consensus that leads to boundaries acceptable for behavior. And that's what Douglas North, who won the Nobel Prize in economics for his work, essentially would refer to as institutions. So building institutions, building strong culture, we take those away and we are not making progress. This is what led us to the whole idea of a new tribe, a tribe of people who are committed to values and to institution building.
Well, fantastic. Yeah, you've been involved in the past with different initiatives, and I mean, I'm sure a lot of people, I mean, my generation remember the concerned professional, the ritual. A lot of people might not know that's what culminated into Nadeco and all that. Well, there's so many political parties today that you're bring behind ABC, so many, and this initiative, some have yielded to some good things, but nobody has ever doubted your sincerity in getting these things on. But what are you, strategically speaking now, what are you doing differently this time? Because I've sat in places, people my age who discuss Nigeria, one of the things people have against you is that they say you are too trusting of politicians, that you are well defended, that you have a good at. And I try to defend it, but they no, he's a good man, no doubt. He means well. But there's people he joins with, they don't have the same thought process with it. So that's why my question is, you have in the past been involved in different initiatives. What are you doing differently this time, strategically speaking, considering when a dire state, more dire than we've ever been?
Yeah, thanks. That's why this is not a partisan political arrangement. It's changing the values of society fundamentally. If people change, then they will demand of politicians a different kind of behavior. You cannot go anywhere without building trust. Yes, it is true. They are right that in several of these initiatives, I have deliberately chosen to collaborate, even if I have my doubts of certain things, and to suspend doubt. Because you cannot say that it will not work or has not worked when you have not tried. What I do for myself is once I see that the intention is not purposeful, does not serve the common good, I immediately walk away. I don't then begin to think, what I'm going to lose everything I've invested in this thing. That's what has brought us to where we are. This is why we don't have elders who speak truth to power. Because they go, okay, these guys are criminals, so, but I need to chop small. I've worked too hard to. I have consistently said, it's okay. I can walk away. I've done that even as a businessman. Help start a business. I've started several businesses. Once the boys that I brought together get greedy, simple, I just walk away. I'm willing to forego the fact that I've invested so much to bring the business to this point. Because I think that ultimately, look, there's very little we can take away from this life. It is our concerns, our values that matter the most. Can we do more? Can we be gritty and make sure that we make things happen? Yes, we can. And this is why I come back again. I don't fall and roll over. The Japanese definition of the entrepreneur as a man who falls down 7 times and gets up 8 times. Oh, have I fallen many times? And I can tell you that I see when the fall is coming. But I don't say, oh, these guys are hopeless. This system is unsavable, which is what many people are saying. And they're doing nothing. But they are criticizing those who are trying to do something. I have said, for example, I'm not in this for anything. If you ask Peter B, he will tell you that I said to him during the course of running around this campaign, I said, I hope you realize, one, that I'm not looking for any position. I don't want to be a minister. I'm already too old to be minister. In my view, might not be necessarily universally accepted. In my view, ministers should be people in their 40s and 50s at the most. But anyway, in Nigeria, we have 70-something-year-old ministers. And I said, I don't want to be a minister at 70-something running around. So, all I want to do is ensure that this place is run well. That is enough for me. I don't want any mega contracts because, hey, look, my children, thank God, in spite of everything, have all graduated. And all I need from now till I die is just 1.5 meals. In fact, anytime I eat 3 meals a day, I get sick. So what I need every day is 1.5 meals. And so why won't I look for what counts? Immortality. Something that lasts, that is tangible. So I don't condemn or criticize those who say maybe I'm too trusting, but I'm saying, what is really the option? What's the option? Either do nothing or go in and fight like a tiger inside something that you will get nowhere. You're dealing with, people. But at least the way things are, many of them are angry with me, but they can't but talk with me because they recognize that I show them up for what they are, just because of what I have continued to stand for. So I don't know, maybe I'm not the right person to defend myself, but I don't think we can get away from trying. We just have to keep working at it. One day, you will get it right. But I think in this particular case, we're looking more at changing the broad spectrum of the people. And that's different from changing a few politicians who are already dying in the wool and looking for, their next game. So that's probably all that I can say to that.
No problem. That's a good response. Well, you've been in America for some time. You're a well-traveled person. Asia to the America. I know you've been in America, the lecturer in Washington, different for us. So my question now is: you've met with a lot of Nigerians, people my age, people below me, and all that. You heard, you listen, the yearnings of people. Now, are you disappointed in the Nigerian diaspora contingent vis-a-vis their approach to Nigeria? I mean, we can compare to India. Even small Haiti, I live in the United States, and I know that the Haitians are doing coordinated, as bad as a country might seem, they're a small country, but they have a more coordinated approach vis-a-vis lobbying the US government, just like the Hispanic contingent. And so my question is, are you disappointed with the other professionals, educated people? Are you disappointed in the Nigerian diaspora contingent?
I should not use the word disappointed. We can get more out of the possibilities from the Nigerian diaspora, and I think we will get more out because inevitably, the way I see things, Nigeria can only be rescued by its diaspora, really, honestly speaking. Right now, it's a lost cause here at home. People are so hungry, many of them don't even want to think. And so, diaspora is the point from which a solution will come. But let me put it this way. The Nigerian diaspora has shown that it is a diaspora willing to give back in many ways. 70% of black doctors in America, I am told, are Nigerian.
Absolutely.
These doctors are regularly going on medical missions to all parts of Africa, not just Nigeria. I know some doctor friends in the US who go to DRC very frequently, Central African Republic, and all of that on medical missions. In fact, one of my great wins in class from many, many years ago was when Kabila was running for president in DRC. One of my doctor friends who went on the medical mission said that everywhere they went, he had these billboards, Kabila, Igwe, Kabila, Igwe. So they thought, maybe a language here is close to a Nigerian language. Yeah. So you guys, what language is this that looks like Nigeria, Igwe? I said, it's not language that looks like Nigeria. It's from Nollywood. The Capo de Tito Capo in a Nollywood movie is usually called Igwe. And so Kabila's campaign was Igwe. So, and it became a good metaphor for one of my classes. So Nigerian professionals have been doing these things to give back to the whole continent for years. So we've got a great, good-hearted diaspora that sees the benefit in giving back. Of course, sometimes they get afflicted by the same disease that we suffer from in Nigeria, which is one of the reasons I have very closely tried to follow some research going on at Harvard and a few other places around the issue of emotion and reason and the gap between us and them. Years ago, a certain gentleman called Daniel Goleman became very well known for his writings in the New York Times, popular psychology, his books, essentially, that began to make us deal with the importance of emotions. He wrote Emotional Intelligence, and everybody, oh, really? And then, of course, Social Intelligence, and so on and so forth. The work that Goldman did blazed a certain trail. And people began to combine neuroscience with psychology and philosophy to explain the human brain and how human beings respond to matters of emotion. What, of course, has been found is that clever politicians have a way of focusing on the human emotion. It is such that many people are driven by those emotions to separate themselves from others. And so, Joshua Green, who is a professor who leads the Center for Moral Cognition at Harvard, wrote this book, Moral Tribes, Emotion, Reason, and the Gap Between Us and Them. And if you look at all the things going on in the United States today, and the MAGA movement and all of that, again, that has inspired a number of books, research about political behavior of people, even educated people. And you will see it play out in books like the one written by Levitsky and Ziblatt at Harvard, and then Runciman, who was at Harvard at Cambridge until not too long ago. And basically, their books have a similar title, like "Is this how democracy ends, or is this how democracy dies?" And the question is, rational public conversation gets more difficult when demagogues as politicians play the number on human emotion. One of the great classic historic examples is how Germans woke up from World War II and wondered how did Hitler get them here? Well-educated Germans, how did they all fall into this? And that is treated in so many different ways. I mean, recently I wrote an opinion piece that was titled "The Danger of Stupid Idiots," to just try and track this thing down. When I was in grad school in the US back in the 70s, there was an economic historian at Berkeley who essentially worked around the concept he called the 5 laws of stupidity, in which he basically said, look, all through human history, major decisions have been made by stupid people. Stupid people have oppressed people. Who are stupid people? Stupid people are those who either seek the hurt of others or actually activate the hurt of others with no gain for themselves from it. That's like all stupid people, The opposite end of stupid people, this guy calls intelligent people. These are people who see the world as win-win. Essentially, they seek the good of others, seek their own good. But there are people who seek the hurt of others so that they can get benefit from it. Those people he called bandits. And then, of course, there is a fourth category, those who want the good of others, but unfortunately don't know how to do it and end up hurting the people they want their good. Those ones they call unfortunate people. So there are four categories in simple as a categorization of people, these four categories. If you marry that on the Greek view of society, that there are people who at the base of society think only of themselves, those they call idiots. Those who think about themselves and others who share a certain parochial base, whether it's language, religion, blood, and those ones they call tribesmen. And Joshua Green makes a very, very nice point about the fact that tribesmen are permanently fighting anybody not of their tribe. And then, of course, citizens at the top of the food chain, if you will. And citizens are people who have human solidarity, who share in the dignity of the human person, universal dignity of the human person. So what has happened really is that clever politicians know how to manipulate these emotions. And as Chipola argues in his own thesis, stupid people are so, in spite of other attributes like education, wealth, and all of that. So you can get a PhD who's a multimillionaire, who is a community leader, who is stupid. And that, unfortunately, is a characteristic that many people can easily fall into. And so many Nigerian politicians that know how to manipulate stupid idiots invariably find that they can find customers in the diaspora. This tends sometimes to divide the Nigerian diaspora and prevent it from being as effective. But other than that, I think that we have a, rich diaspora, rich in terms of commitment to common good and stuff like that. They just have to find leadership that does less to exploit stupid elements in human nature.
Thank you, Prof. So now, from the way I see it, what you're doing, it seems to be like an intellectual revolution, empowering people of like minds, come up with blueprints. I've seen what you're doing with the courts, square pegs and square holes, medical people come up with medical doctrines and solutions and community effort and all that. So to me, it does look like an intellectual revolution. That's fantastic because Nigeria does not have a shortage of intellectuals. I think it's just the application that is an issue. So with what you're doing, the government of the day is not tolerant of opposition and the press. They could see what you're doing, also when it creates a lot of awareness for the people. But much have been working on the government of the day might see it as something that you're opposing them and all that. So I don't know if they've been revolved or threatened or, you understand what I'm trying to say. But in the case, if that happens, how do you want to counter it? Because if you launch, we actually launch, it's all over the place. New tribe. I don't think from the little I've seen, this government is not tolerant of any opposition. They will see it as an opposition. How do you want to deal with that?
Well, all of my life, I have never bothered with whether governments are tolerant or intolerant of opposition. I have seen it as my duty to say my bit, to do my bit, and it can cause some people to be upset. They may call me names. They've even tried to kill me in the past. Heck, I'm not afraid to die. I wasn't afraid 30 years ago. Why would I be now that I've finished my life's work? Children are all graduated. Anybody wants to kill me, he can carry my sins and go, and deal with it. Let me go clean into heaven with that person appropriating my sins. No, I really, quite frankly, and as you know, even though it's a tragedy and a shame that the government, you say, does not broke opposition, these are friends of mine from days when we all were in the trenches together. And I think that, almost like the way Jesus said, to the Jews that, the people of Nineveh repented. And but you did not, you are seeing me and you are not. They will witness against you. So those who use opposition, demonstration, and all of these things to acquire power, and now define such same things that they did as treason, I hope they know that it will be used as evidence against them when judgment comes. I don't fear. I do what I think is right. I hope that everybody is reasonable enough to recognize that the goal, the good of all is what is sought. And in their quiet moments, I'm sure they must say, this part self, eh? So that's all I can really say about that, I mean, Abacha tried to kill me twice. The God that protected me then is still alive and well. And even if he decides that it's time to go, blessed be the name of the Lord, as Job said.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, more than anybody I know, I mean, I don't think there's anybody that former president that's empowered, you don't have a relationship with, one-on-one and all that. I mean, if, for example, President Tinubu calls you, like, look, Prof, I'm in trouble, things are not okay to go, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. What do you think I can do in the immediate and in the extended that can rectify the Nigerian quagmire, in the extreme? What do you think I can do? Because I don't think, to me, I watch him all the time on TV, and I think there's a lot of confusion in government. It's clear from the way things are going. I mean, I don't like using health against people. As an old man, no doubt, and I'm sure mentally is not firing full throttle the way it did maybe in 2007 and 1999. So the company doesn't have that overwhelming control, so to say. But if he calls me, for example, what are the kind of advice we'll give him? Because I don't think we have that much time. Even with your initiative, which is fantastic, it will still take us some months, to get everything together, bring people. But does Nigeria have that much time? I don't know. So if the president calls me, what will you tell him? As a matter of
I'm always very honest when I get asked by anybody, just like I was with President Yaradua. If you recall, I ran against President Yaradua. And so when he called me, in the typical Nigerian way, it was like, this is compensation time. But I said to him, I'm not looking for a job, but I'm a patriot. You can call me anytime, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and I'll give you the benefit of my view of anything. And he spent a long time trying to persuade me that I could do more if we worked together. I came in, served in his cabinet, and all of that. Okay, all of that is ancient story. But right now, I am really, truly, in that last time, it was a little different. I was much, much younger myself, and I could have gone in and all of that. Now, what? I'll be 69 in a few weeks or so, and that's taking me out of range. I've told my children, if they see me in my 70s running around talking about any of this, they should I'm giving them the authority to come and grab me and say, okay, our dad has lost his capacity to think, so we're taking him back to his country home or whatever it is. No, as I said to Peter Obi, look, the only thing I can do at age 70 and feel comfortable is being an ambassador, drinking tea in Washington, and giving you private advice on a phone call. So basically, what I would say to him, I probably can't give the details complete here, but is you've got to build consensus, you've got to build unity. They didn't try at all. Even when you have a clean election and landslide, a smart leader tries to bring everybody somehow together to say, this is our country. Nigeria is in the moral equivalence of a war. And the first thing that anybody who emerges, even in a clean election in Nigeria, should do is think like a war cabinet that includes almost all the stakeholders. That's what, as a 32-year-old Gowon did in 1967. And I think that if he could, at that age, do that, it is a shame that my friends in their 70s and 80s can't have the wisdom that a 32-year-old soldier had. That's why he had Chief Obafemi Awolowo sitting by him and directing things. That's why he had Alhaji Shehu Shagari, Maitama Sule, all of these people around. Koya Ripo. I think that Bola Tinubu should have been wise enough to think in that way. Unfortunately, he failed to do that. So I will ask him to look at how he can get best and brightest from a couple of different levels. From a policy level, best and brightest. From a national, stability level, best and bright. The pillars of society. Like I said, I can mention something, but I won't say it now because it's not fair. If I were to speak to anybody, I'll tell them exactly details like that. But when you then build or forge this kind of, okay, let's fix these problems together. Then in terms of really how you proceed, it's about you have to get production going. How do you get production going? Look, we can leak this insecurity. We know that the people are behind all these things. It has probably run out of their control. But how do we go after this insecurity? And how do we allow for production to take place, pushing back on these ungoverned areas syndrome? And that will involve a lot of political engagement and negotiations with all kinds of different forces. That big group of unifying people with big names accepted in everywhere would help advance those engagements, while a group of smart technocrats would probably put in place a production strategy based on taking specific factor endowments that we have, identifying latent comparative advantage that we have based on those factor endowments, and using limited industrial policy to articulate dominance of certain value chains for Nigeria. And then using these people who are known around the world to find friends who can help us. Look, the narrative, one of the most important things the new tribe is supposed to do is to change the narrative on Nigeria. Literally, few serious people in the world take Nigeria seriously. Few will invest in Nigeria, even if they have nothing else to do with their money, because of the narrative on Nigeria. But when you get a cadre of people who are well known around the world, who are respected, now fan out Not all we're going to go and get investors. No, none of those razzmatazz things. Just quietly talking to a few business leaders, to a few government leaders that they know personally, and saying, look, it is important for the stability of this planet, for Africa and all of this, that we get Nigeria working right. You know, the way Mandela put it. Now is the moment, because if we don't do something, Nigeria will fall apart. The cost for this planet will be so high. So please, can you do X, Y, and Z to facilitate this? And confidence will begin to. And then, very, very importantly, everybody in public office must behave with a certain level of decorum, a certain level of modesty, because to spend public resources in, okay, look at UNGA has just ended, United Nations General Assembly. Of course, we've been joking about it, that is hunger, that has just ended up UNGA. But, you know, look at all this news out there. It's the poorest people, the Africans, the Nigerians, who took over the biggest hotels in New York, who came in the longest motorcades. European Prime Minister comes out in one. In fact, one story I read, 2 or 3 of the prime ministers were sharing one Mercedes, you know, to go to the sessions and stuff like that. But how did the Africans come? The ones that are coming to beg for debt forgiveness. These are some of the problems. That's the point I make when I talk about values shape human progress. You can't come there in the biggest jet and the people you're asking for debt forgiveness from came there in commercial airlines, some of them in business class, you know, and then you ask them to come and please, you know, we are poor people, come and forgive our debts. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So those who are going to work in this dispensation must show optimum modesty in terms of how they deal with public resources. And most resources should go to creating both the infrastructure and institutional arrangements that facilitate production. And that way, the world will take us more seriously and we'll be able to quickly grow our way out of poverty.
Thank you, Prof. I know it's a busy day for you. There are a lot of other people that want to talk to you and all that. God bless you so much. You're undoubtedly a patriot. We are looking at your resume. You've gone to school all over Nigeria, in the north, south, east, west. You're more pan-Nigerian than almost any other person there in the public space. I will ask you a final question, though. I mean, and if push comes to shove in the future, you are asked to work a Prof, what's popularly say, come out for president, and you see that the people are actually, it is what's popularly say, will you give it a shot?
Yeah, if there is a sacrifice that can make for the kind of impact in people's lives that I have spent my life fighting for, struggling about, I'm ready to make sacrifice, but I'm not going to go to try and be anything for the purpose of ego or enjoyment. No, that is out of it. But if this is the moment that we can show example and leadership, why not?
One final one, bro. I mean, most of the people they call the owners of Nigeria, some of which are from out of state and all that, I know you really love them. And you tell them the truth when you with them. Now, based on your experience with most of them, and with the way Nigeria is today, how do you think they feel?
They feel terrible. Actually, I was with one of them yesterday. I think he's flying towards Egypt right now. But he said to me, Pat, Pat.
Oh, bro. Oh, God. Unbelievable.
They all feel really bad. I mean, a number of them got together recently. And I mean, I got a chance to talk with one of them about that meeting. It was nothing extraordinary. It was just they are expressing their sadness, you know.
Okay, Prof. Thank you very much, Professor Utomi. We wish you well. Atlanta Discuss will always support anything that you do. And
Thank you.
we believe in you, and we know that with this new tribe of Nigeria is an extraordinary initiative. There's a large chunk of educated Nigerians, enlightened Nigerians that don't take part in politics. This is not a time for anybody to stay out of it. We must all have an input. I think the application of that citizenship responsibility is one reason why we're where we are. So what Prof has done is to create an avenue, a platform for like minds to come together and do good for Project Nigeria. So Prof, thank you once again. To our viewers all over the world, the seven continents. I know I always start Antarctica. I wouldn't know there are not too many people there. But I have to recognize Antarctica, Asia, Africa, Europe, North South America, everybody. Thank you for your loyalty. And happy Independence Day, Nigeria. Somebody is sleeping the giant. I don't think it's sleeping. I think it does refuse to walk. It has everything it needs, but hopefully one day we get it right. The largest concentration of Black people, it's an embarrassment. It's a shock to the system. We're not happy about it. So it's a wrap there. Thank you, everybody. Have a blessed day. God bless you all. Bye.